All right, great, Lee.
All right, kid. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you, John. John LeVoutier, former congressman. Check out his podcast, Revolution, SoundCloud, iTunes. We got it on top of the hour coming at you fast and furious. We'll come back, talk taxes. Tony D'Angelo. He's a good friend of Bob Lazari. We'll chat with him next.
Traffic alert on 94.9 News Now.
In Stafford, Route 19 remains closed in both directions at Route 319 because of an accident with a down pole and wires. Follow the local detours. You got sun glare as you're going over the Gold Star Bridge and up I-95. Route 12, stop and go traffic in both directions south of the subbase. Route 32, you're slow northbound between the Coast Guard Academy and Connecticut College. I-395, still looking good. I'm Eddie Schaefer.
All right, here we go. So here's the deal. I'm always interested in tax experts and people who know, well, everybody knows more than me. But I'm bringing on a tax expert right now. Tony D'Angelo, EAJD Managing Director of the New Haven, Connecticut-based Paragon Trust Company, is joining us this morning. Tony, how are you?
Lee, I'm wonderful. It's an honor and a pleasure. Thank you for having me on, my friend.
The honor is all mine, my friend, even after I yelled at you before we went on the air. And I'll have to tell that story another time, but I have another friend named Tony D, and I thought I was being punked, but I wasn't. Anyway, it's funny to me, but that's all that counts. So listen, let's start with the economic policies of the state and how much damage this whole Connecticut economic engine is. Give me a little breakdown.
Okay. I was walking the dog in the cemetery yesterday, and, where we get into very highly technical concepts, in our daily work and some of the things I was explaining that, most people like me failed math in 7th and 8th grade. It comes down to one thing, Lee. The economic policy of the state, if you can analogize this, it's a drunken father and a serious mother and a kid who essentially is, caught between these people. The drunken father is the state government. The mother is the federal government. And the kid is the citizenry. And basically, the drunken father will not stop gambling, will not stop going to the track, and everything is going to be just fine. When the mother comes and says, well, what the heck are you doing? I'll be okay, I'll be fine, whatever case. So what happens is the drunken father concocts a couple of schemes. Instead of drinking in the bar solitarily, he's going to go over to the bar close to the racetrack, and he's going to listen to the touts, and then he's going to bet. And he's going to come up with a scheme and come back to the kid and say, listen, kid, I don't know what your mom is telling you, but everything is going to be just fine. That's where we're at right now. I've seen 4 policies, and I'm not even talking the economic policies or the things as far as, paid family and medical leave and the minimum wage and all that. I mean, that could be another discussion. But 4 tax policies that really I can't believe. And 2 did not pass, as my wife, Kathy, who in this family is much like Carmen Buren was to Yogi. She reads the front part of the newspaper, says they will pass next term. The investment income tax and the sales tax on services, people doing like what I might do.
Right.
Those are at least not for today. But the one that did pass is the pass-through entity tax. And the other one, which many people are hot and bothered about, but yet no one or very few people are very honest to the fact of saying, I don't understand it or I don't think it can work, is something called a payroll tax, which honestly defies gravity. So I just want to give you this little story. I was at a meeting on Thursday over in Manhattan with someone who was interested in opportunity zones. Now, opportunity zones are one of the better provisions in the 2017 legislation where if you invest in a designated zone and keep that investment for 10 years, whatever profits come back can be made tax-free. So Connecticut's got a few of these zones, but the person whom I was speaking to who can direct some of this capital, and Lee, these were his words to me. He said, Connecticut is getting to be too much like Michigan was. It's the same thing. It's the same policies. It's the same people. And let me tell you, that Dan Malloy from Greenwich is going to run this thing into the ground. So here we have a new governor, but the perception of somebody far away from here is still the same. And then he said, well, my folks are just going to wait for the eventual collapse and come in and buy everything cheap. I said, oh, brother. I didn't like to hear that, but that's the perception that's out there.
Let me ask you, go back just for a second, because I thought your initial analogy was interesting. So in your setup, the drunken father is the state of Connecticut.
Right.
Now, the mom is sympathetic in your story, and that would be the federal government. Do you think the federal government is sympathetic in the story to the kid in this, or is she an enabler?
That's a darn good question. The federal government, actually the mom or the federal government in this story is so disgusted with the dad to the point where she's kind of written him off, but is sympathetic to the kid, but yet does not know what she could do for the kid other than to somehow get the influence of this father away from the kid. And that may be a feeble explanation,
right,
but that's the best I can give.
All right, go back to the payroll tax and what we kind of don't understand about that. You sort of seemed like you were confused about how to break that down. What's going on with that?
Okay, basically what it is that I am a Connecticut employer. Many people are Connecticut employers, and we pay our people, and we have to pay them. We have to pay payroll taxes. If you do not pay payroll taxes by a very strict federal definition, as Vince Scully would say in the Dodger game, for those of you scoring at home, Section 3121 of the Internal Revenue Code, it's defined. You can go to jail, and believe me, I have several clients who went to jail, and we got them out. So this is not anything that you pay with, but there is this. You have to be of a certain vintage. I call it a Rube Goldberg-esque concoction of, well, rather than me paying somebody, say, I'm just going to pick a round number out of my head, and believe me, none of my salaries run this high, $100,000 a year. I'm going to pay them $95,000 a year, and the state of Connecticut is going to charge me as my liability their state income taxes of $5,000. They will recharacterize that as a payroll tax. However, my person that works for me can get a credit for the taxes that have come, and therein lies the rub. One cannot receive shall we say, a tax deduction for something that, quote unquote, turns out to be money in their pocket. And I've had several conversations, not because yes, I do have a fascination with it, but just because of things I'm working on with district counsel at the IRS as to, are you looking at this? And I had a conversation last week which spurred me to, call you up with someone there that said, yes, there are 3 guidance projects right now that we're working on. One is the pass-through entity tax, which is already in effect, because people will need to know what to do with that maneuver this year. The other one is the payroll tax, and the other one is tax credits for charitable contributions. And basically, if everything comes down the way it does, we're going to be looking at 3 pitches on the corner. What is particularly galling to me, Lee, is you have people and you have journalists who are writing articles saying that this thing is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I've been to every single one of them. It's like, okay, I challenge you. Let's discuss it. Tell me what you're thinking. Maybe I'm an idiot. I've been called that before, and I've certainly acted like one. The silence is deafening, my friend. And this is where, to me, if you want to use another analogy, this is Leave It to Beaver. This is Beaver and Gilbert in the bedroom trying to concoct the scheme, and then Wally and Eddie walk in and say, look, guys, this isn't going to work. So it's, and it's just, this state, which is so broke and has no money, this is what they're wasting money on. And back to the father in the bar.
Right. Tony D'Angelo is joining us this morning. Fortress Fiduciary Company, LLC, another hook.
Their operating company, yes.
Yeah, another hook that you hang your hat on. And this is just great conversation, getting a chance to talk to you, and I really appreciate you breaking some of this stuff down. So a couple other things. How does paid family leave affect the average schmuck like me? I mean, I've been against it from the day one. You give your own personal responsibility. Why do I have to pay for you to take a few days off? Plus the idea that it's going to be ripe with fraud, I think. What do you think about all that?
Well, shall I say, watching the government here in years gone by, days gone by, whatever the case may be, back to the father in the bar, honey, I'm going to change, I'm going to change, I'm going to change. It's the same thing, because any time you do something like that, you're creating another program. You're adding more bureaucrats. Then it becomes a situation of, well, that's my third cousin once removed, but he lives with me, and we're this and we're that. It's going to be so abusively.
No question.
The other thing is, where does it come from? If you start to charge employees, and this is another thing, because this happened with the pass-through entity tax, if you start to charge employees, that runs out of money. Well, where do they come? They come to me. And this may sound horribly cruel. No one that works for me gets anything close to minimum wage, including my 21-year-old college girl. Maybe she's 22 now. I do not know. Because if I am not doing as an employer what I am supposed to do, if I'm not creating a good environment, if I'm not creating challenges, if not training, making things interesting, making people want to come and do something, the market will deal with me.
Right.
Why does the state government have to tell me, how I'm supposed to deal with my employees? And honestly, truthfully, where a lot of this goes to is, folks like me. A lot of my clients, a number of them have left for Florida. A number of them are contemplated leaving. I had one meeting with a female client, a younger widow, about 2 or 3 weeks ago. A really, really sweet, proper lady. I heard things from her that, Leo DeRocher probably never said in his worst moments to Dusty Bodges. I mean, it was, and when you do that, when you say to people, well, you're not paying enough, and you got a big break in 2017, I'm coming after you, you're pretty much telling them you don't want them here, and I just don't know who pays for it when they're gone.
Now, you mentioned minimum wage. What
Yes.
kind of a damaging effect do you think that's going to have in the state of Connecticut? How many people can lose their jobs?
I think it's going to be terrible, because let the market determine the wage. Like for my 21-year-old,
right.
I don't give her what she's due. I mean, she's right to be taken from under me. Now, can I give her every single opportunity that I hope to, but I may not, because a lot of people throw a lot of money around. So I am forced to give her something marketable. I don't need a government telling me that, I've got to do this. And it's like, if somebody offers you a wage and you don't like the wage, you don't have to work there.
Right. So this is it's a game being played by the left to, I would think, garner more. It's got to be, it's a vote getter, it's a vote grabber. If I'm making, $10 an hour, someone's going to promise me 15. Of course I'm going to pull the lever for that person, right?
Well, I mean, and here I am chomping at the bit, trying to remain, shall we say, technical and not political. But yeah, right. It's a game played by the left, and honestly, it's a game played by rhinos.
Right. Yeah, it's a good point. Good point. Tony D'Angelo joining us. Is there a place people can find out more about you? It's a fascinating conversation that we could go on for hours and hours. But I mean, is there some place that they can go to learn more about you?
Anybody who is somewhat waylaid in their life. No, honestly, truthfully, I appreciate all inquiries. You can find me. The phone number is 203-777-7334. That's 203-777-7334. My email address is fortresstrust, that's one word, at AOL.com. And our website is paragontrust.com. And one thing I will say to folks, there's a lot of things listening to this conversation that will go on in their mind is Ray Morgan used to tell us kids watching championship wrestling going way, way, way back, it gets very complicated out there. If it's something that, you have a question about, find a competent professional practitioner. I don't care if you come to me.
Right.
Go to somebody who's not going to hurt you. This is not something that, your sister-in-law Susie can do on a Sunday afternoon.
It's a great point.
Believe me.
It's a great point. Hey, so now we got through all the bad stuff. let's talk about a couple of minutes worth of the good stuff. So you got teamed up with Bob Lazari, correct?
Oh, yeah.
So you've been doing a sports show with him for how long?
Well, it ended in December of 2017.
Right.
Night Sports out of Wyndham. It was, I'll tell you, it was, and how could I put it? Maybe not every single show was, lollipops and rainbows, but Lee, as a kid who grew up very humbly in Stamford, Connecticut, and maybe a little bit of an unsympathetic kid, my dad had a 7th grade education. He raised 3 boys with advanced degrees. I mean, I'm not going to tell you it was all perfect,
right?
As it isn't any, and it's like I never imagined I'd be talking to half these people, and the courtesy and the kindness some historical figures showed us. I remain in awe to this day, and it was Bob who worked his tail off to put these things together. I mean, I just went out every once in a while, had a conversation, and dragged in a guest.
Yeah, but it's pretty amazing. You guys had a great show, a lot of fun. I mean, how many years, though, did you do it? 10, 11?
Years.
How many?
10 years.
10 years, yeah. Okay, that's what I thought.
Years.
A lot of fun. I mean, your favorite sports when you were growing up, you just all about sports when you were younger, too?
Yeah, I grew up in Stamford, Connecticut, so I followed all the New York teams, and that was the era of Namath and Seaver and the '69 Mets and Willie Mays coming to the Mets.
Right.
Yeah, I followed it quite a bit, and I still go back and revisit it. And then the great National League players in those days, the people like Allen and Argel. Yeah. It's
so different now because, listen, having TV, having the internet has changed it because now you see everybody. But, I came from that generation like you. You're a little bit before me, I think, but I came from that generation where you didn't see National League players until the All-Star game.
Yeah, or the game of the week.
Yeah, and it was incredible to get a chance to watch these players play. And I remember Mays coming to the Mets, too. I was very young, and I remember saying to myself, well, what's so special about this guy? Yeah, because he was in, the end of his career. But, it's incredible how you remember these things. And
what I always say about Mays was, a lot of people will write on social media, oh, he shouldn't have come, oh, this, oh, that, he fell down in the outfield in the World Series. Those were his bad moments. There was a lot of games when he was still Willie Mays, maybe not Willie Mays in capital letters, but he could still do things that your mere mortal major leaguer could not do.
Right. And plus, nobody wants to say it's time, right? Nobody wants to say that. They still don't want to say it to this day. So anyway, listen, I can't thank you enough, Tony. This was a lot of fun to get a chance to talk to you. We got to do it again soon.
You tell me, pal.
All right, buddy.
Thanks. Bye now.
Have a good one. There he is, Tony D'Angelo. Good guy, Fortress Fiduciary Company. And again, we got to get him back on the show sooner rather than later. All right, we'll take a break. Hang on.